It's all Donald Trump's fault. Get ready for California Democrat politicians to blame all of their problems on Trump, including their massive budget deficit in the state budget. But coming up, I'll tell you how I dropped 5 truth bombs on Gavin Newsom as he tried to blame Trump for his budget problems. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative representing District 75 in the California State Assembly. This week, the California State Assembly Budget Committee, which I am a member of, had Governor Gavin Newsom's budget director before our committee, and they were presenting the governor's budget and telling us how wonderful things were. Oh, no, but anything that's wrong is all Trump's fault. That's basically the narrative, the false narrative that Gavin Newsom and his cronies tried to spin at the budget hearings. Let me tell you right now, none of California's budget woes are the fault of Donald Trump. They are all uniquely and exclusively the fault of Gavin Newsom and California liberal Democrat politicians who have a spending addiction, who have been fiscally reckless, and continue to raise our taxes and give our monies to illegal immigrants and all sorts of other wasteful programs. In a moment, I'm going to share with you my commentary at the Budget Committee hearing. And I saw Democrats darting their eyes at me with daggers, wanting me to shut up and cut off my microphone. Not before I dropped a variety of truth bombs. It's epic. You need to watch it for yourself. But first, let me go through the 5 failures, top failures, because there's a bunch of failures, in Governor Gavin Newsom's budget this year and why we are headed over the fiscal cliff in California. And none of it is Donald Trump's fault. Here first is some of the news coverage, which takes the false narrative spun by Newsom and Democrats and presents it as though it's true. Quote, California lawmakers brace for budget uncertainty now that Trump is in office. This is from KCRA. Now, I do not blame Ashley Zavala for this headline. She's actually a pretty darn good reporter and has shined a light on the failures of Sacramento politicians and including Governor Gavin Newsom. But someone over there in the news office, the news room, certainly is doing their level best to help Democrats and Newsom spin a false tale that California has budget uncertainty and it's all Donald Trump's fault. No, this budget was completely a sea of red ink and out of balance years before Trump returned to the Oval Office. So let me go through the 5 failures, the top failures, because there's a lot of them, of Gavin Newsom's budget. Number 1, this budget ain't balanced at all. And in my comments, which you're going to see in just a moment, I called out the budget director. And I basically said to the budget director and the state legislative analyst that I have no confidence in them because they both stood before the committee. And unfortunately, we don't put people under oath before state legislative committees. I think we should start. You'd actually might start getting a little bit more truth. But they both sat there and said, the budget is essentially balanced. We have a modest surplus this year. But I literally went through the budget and asked them straight up, isn't it true that we're spending more money than we're taking in this year by the tune of about $7.5 billion? And the answer was, yes, we're spending $7.5 billion more than we're taking in. But we're raiding our reserves to do it. Bitch, that ain't balanced. Okay. Anyone sitting around their kitchen table at home knows that if your salary is $7.5 billion shorter than your expenses for the year, you're going broke big time. You are facing a budget deficit. You're spending more than you're taking in. Don't tell me that nonsense about it being balanced or that you have a modest surplus. Absolutely dishonest. And if you're not going to be honest about the fact that we are spending more than we're taking in, that we have a fiscal time bomb on our hands, then nothing else you have to say is credible to me. I can't trust a single word out of your mouth because you are literally untethered from financial reality and spinning a bunch of falsehoods. Second, not only is the budget not balanced by a lot, but we are giving money out to illegal immigrants to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. The actual number is unknown because there are so many programs that illegal immigrants have been given, welfare, taxpayer handouts in the state of California, that they don't get in any other state. And I've covered this on this show before, that by dangling the carrot of taxpayer-funded handouts, state politicians are enabling human trafficking into our state. They are inducing and incentivizing illegal immigration into California. You cut off the handouts, you diminish the attractiveness of paying coyotes $6,000 or $7,000 for each illegal immigrant family to come across. We are incentivizing human trafficking with your taxpayer money. It needs to stop. But what I did was I zeroed in on a specific line item, and that is free taxpayer-funded health coverage for illegal immigrants. Now, mind you, Governor Newsom and the California Democrats just voted this in last year. Complete coverage for all illegal immigrants that need or want taxpayer-funded health care. What an inducement. I mean, I don't know about you, but healthcare is pretty damn expensive, and most of us get our healthcare premium bill, even if our employer chips in a bit, and it's pretty darn staggering. It's a lot of money. But here we have free healthcare insurance for illegal immigrants. Newsom said it was $6.5 billion last year when they voted in the giveaway. Nope. It's $10 billion. $9.5 billion if you're going down to decimals. 23% of the state's general fund Medi-Cal expenditures, 23% goes to illegal immigrants. Let me repeat that. 23% of the California state budget general fund expenditures for Medi-Cal are going out to cover illegal immigrant health care. 23%. This is so offensive. It is so wasteful. And by the way, if you eliminate the nearly $10 billion in illegal immigrant taxpayer-funded health care, you would be able on paper to balance the state's budget. I still don't even think it's balanced even with those numbers. But at least on paper, using Nat Newsom's math, we would not be raiding reserves this year if we just cut the illegal immigrant health care. And I'm not even covering any of the other very generous welfare programs that illegal immigrants get from our state budget. We're talking not just $10 billion of your taxpayer money going to illegal immigrants. We're talking $20 to $30 billion alone. Now, those are the first two failures of the state budget. And if you don't even, if those two alone should have you in the streets rioting against Newsom's reckless mismanagement of our state budget and demanding change. But I've got three other failures I want to cover. But first, I need your help. Every day at 5 o'clock, we do this show. We give you the truth that the liberal media in California won't give you about California politics. And every single day, we're out there fighting to expose the corruption in state government and do something about it. Recruit good candidates, train them, and file them for office from city council and school board all the way up to U.S. Congress and everything in between, including the body I serve in, the California State Legislature. We're trying to break the Democrats' supermajority. We can't do this without your help. It's not like the California Republican Party is organizing the resistance. We are at Reform California. So check out our website, reformcalifornia.org, and join this grassroots movement to take back California from the far left. Chip in a contribution so we can continue to bring you this show. It's 100% funded only by grassroots contributors like yourself. So if you value the truth that we're bringing every single day to the California news and political scene, please chip in a contribution. And yes, your contributions go to helping us recruit volunteers and candidates to activate our movement statewide and flip seats. We're also leading the fight to pass California voter ID, to make that a requirement so we can restore election integrity in our state. Chip in a contribution if you want us to put good reforms on the ballot in 2026. We can't do it without your help at reformcalifornia.org. And of course, you don't just have to contribute. Please sign up so that you can stay in touch with our movement. Go to the bottom of the website at reformcalifornia.org, put in your first name, your last name, email, phone, and zip code so that you are connected to this growing statewide grassroots movement, Take Back Our State from the left. All right, so we have the first two failures of the California state budget. Number one, it's not balanced. Number two, we're giving billions of dollars out, tens of billions of dollars out to illegal immigrants that we don't have the money to cover. And 23% of the general fund state of California expenditures for Medi-Cal go to illegal immigrants. This is just staggering. A bombshell revelation that I was able to drag out of the California budget director testimony. And I'm going to play my comments in just a moment. And it was, people gasped when I got her to reveal the number. I already knew the number, by the way. Never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. So coming in at third, this budget raises taxes on small businesses. A massive payroll tax is levied on California small businesses to the tune of $23 per employee. And you might not think that that's a lot of money, but when you add it all up, we're talking nearly $2.5 billion of payroll taxes. And what is that going to cover? It's going to cover fraudulent unemployment insurance payouts that Newsom allowed to happen in 2020 during the shutdown of the economy that he ordered, which had no beneficial effect on our health. You got it. His administration allowed $30 billion in fraudulent payments to go out the door. Now, struggling small businesses in California will be hit with a massive payroll tax to pay back Newsom's borrowing from the federal government. No, that should be repaid by the state general fund. He should not be able to raise taxes to cover his mistakes. It should come out of his own hide. Now, while he's giving a massive tax increase to small businesses around the state, cutting off our job growth potential, because when you make it more expensive to hire and create jobs in California with a payroll tax increase, it's less attractive for people to want to hire in California. Well, he's doing that to small businesses. He's giving his buddies in the liberal Hollywood elite media $750 million in tax breaks. So let's get this straight. $750 million to liberal Hollywood elite movie producers in tax breaks, and $2.5 billion in tax hikes to struggling small businesses. Do you understand how elitist and out of touch Newsom and the Democrats are in this state? Liberal Hollywood elites get tax breaks because liberal Hollywood elites are on the side of the Democrats. They give all sorts of campaign contributions and phony media support. But small businesses, which are the foundation of a real prosperous economy, they're sucker punched by Newsom and the Democrats with this budget. Fourth, you're going to be paying a massive insurance tax in this state budget. The state budget charges $3.6 billion in insurance taxes. And this comes at a time that State Farm and other businesses, insurance companies, are raising your premiums. State Farm just announced a 40% premium hike on homeowners over the period of 2 years. And other companies have larger increases. Some homeowners are seeing their private insurance dropped, and they're being forced into a very expensive government-run insurance plan called the California Fair Plan. But all of us are paying massive insurance taxes. Here's an idea. Cut the fat in the state budget and waive the $3.6 billion in insurance taxes to give a little relief to homeowners. When they're seeing a double-digit increase in their premiums, state politicians should not be price gouging on top of that. And so that's the fourth failing of the state budget. So if you're keeping score at home, number one, it's not balanced. Number two, illegal immigrant healthcare is breaking the bank. Number three, there's a payroll tax on small business job creation while we're giving Hollywood elites a tax cut. Number four, there's a massive insurance tax in this budget, $3.6 billion, while your rates are going up double digits. And number five, there's no money for crime and grime prevention. I'm talking about the prisons, and I'm talking about homelessness. There's no money in this budget to implement Prop 36, which is the landmark Make Crime Illegal Again initiative just passed by voters in the 2024 election with 70% approval, by the way. Newsom does not put any money in. So how do we actually enforce Prop 36 and arrest and imprison criminals if there are no beds available. Newsom is basically trying to overturn the vote of the people with his budget. No money for increased enforcement that Prop 36 would anticipate. And also no money for real treatment of homelessness in terms of mental health and substance abuse treatment. But there are billions of dollars for rich developers to get subsidies to build drug den condo towers at the tune of $1 million on average per government subsidized unit. Newsom is giving your money to rich developers to build boondoggle drug den project, government housing welfare slums at $1 million a pop per unit, but he doesn't want to put any money into actually solving problems and getting people to live on their own independently by curing them of their mental health or substance abuse problem. This budget is a slap in the face to California voters that want real change on homelessness and crime. Crime and grime will continue under this budget. Look, we deserve better than the nonsense that's been presented here. And Democrats will sit there and say, it's all Trump's fault. It's all Trump's fault. You damn right Trump should withhold federal funding till you all clean up your mess, Newsom and Democrats in the state legislature. Now, I'm not just hosting this show every day at 5 o'clock exposing the rot and corruption in state government. I'm inside the belly of the beast. That's why I ran for state legislature with your support. And every day I'm going in, speaking truth to power. At the budget committee hearing, I dropped these truth bombs on Newsom and his budget director. Of course, the Democrats didn't like what I had to say, but check it out. The video from my comments at the state budget committee hearing. I don't even know if my questions are going to be relevant or helpful because, frankly, I don't think you have a whole lot of credibility given just basic math. If people back home are sitting around their kitchen table and they look at their income and then they look at their expenses and they realize, oh, I don't know, they're about $7 billion short for the year, no one in their right mind describes that as a balanced budget. And I think that it is alarming that we have the top finance officials and our top legislative analyst when it comes to fiscal issues sitting before this committee testifying before elected officials that we have a balanced budget. And I do appreciate Ms. Petrie Norris's line of questioning because it raises even bigger questions that our economy is not necessarily on the firmest footing. And so we're adopting a budget automatically that's not balanced on day one. And so I don't even know if I'm going to come to another budget hearing for oversight because I'm not convinced I'm going to get an honest answer. And both of you just described the budget as, quote, balanced, but $7 billion of raids on reserves. And the fact is we're taking in less money by $7 billion than we're spending. It doesn't jive with reality. And it almost is as though we're getting political talking points rather than actual facts for us as a legislative body to do our job to adopt a budget. I would encourage my colleagues not to put a whole lot of faith or even use this document as a starting point. I think we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and start fresh. And it might mean that we have to get outside counsel to come in and provide us with some honest, blunt answers to some basic questions, because that is what Californians would demand of us. No one can describe this fiscal picture as balanced, and it's offensive to California taxpayers to do so. How much are we raising the California payroll tax by because of the unemployment insurance fraud? Are we talking $2 billion this year in payroll taxes? What's the tax hike on employers in the state? I think it's $23 per employee of added cost, because I believe that increased revenue is presumed in this budget overall when you're looking at special funds.
Hi, Teresa Calvert again. I'm looking to see if I have that specific amount. We might have to get back to
I think it's about $2 billion. And yet we're giving Hollywood elites a $750 million tax credit. Big entertainment studios get a tax credit, while small business owners are being charged $23 per employee in higher taxes if we adopt this budget. it doesn't seem to bode well for this shaky economy that everyone seems to be worried about that might burst at any time and leave us holding the bag. There was a mention of federal funding and perhaps disruptions in federal funding. Has the governor's office done a risk assessment of the potential exposure of this budget to the Trump administration withholding federal funds? And if so, what is the total tab that we might be short on if the Trump administration follows through on sequestering federal funds? Should we have a rainy day fund for the potential that we get into a fight? Because it looks like we're on a collision course right now with the Trump administration, a fight with the federal government on federal funds. Have we done a risk assessment?
As I mentioned earlier, we are looking at all of the federal funding that we receive as a state. And at this point, we don't know what is at jeopardy, but we are looking at that. And as I also said, you're correct. There's no way that the general fund can backfill the loss of federal funds.
Well, there's certain funds that are discretionary and certain funds that are already on a formula basis. I think if you could just at least give us the discretionary list, that's a good starting point, because the formulaic funds are probably going to be harder for them to sequester. And then finally, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time, it looks like we're dipping into about $7 billion of reserves, if we are to believe your numbers, and I don't believe your numbers. I think we're probably looking at a budget deficit that is northward of $15 to $18 billion if you true up actual expenses and you back out the one-time monies that I know that you guys are shaking the tree on. How much money are we spending in this year's budget on illegal immigrant services? Let's just start with healthcare. The number in the budget said an increase of $6.3 billion, but my numbers suggest that the number is far higher than that. That was added coverage from this last budget cycle, not the total amount just for the healthcare. Do we have an actual number of illegal immigrant healthcare that the state taxpayers are covering in this year's budget?
Guadalupe Manriquez with the California Department of Finance. So in the current year, to cover undocumented individuals in Medi-Cal, we're spending $9.5 billion total funds.
So it's not the $6 billion that people continue to talk about in the media. It's $9.5 billion.
It was a Budget Act number. This is a revised number based on the governor's budget updated estimates. So of the $9.5 billion, $8.4 billion is general fund.
$8.4 billion in general funds. So that's, well, if we cut that, at least using your math, we'd have a $1 billion surplus, my friends. We wouldn't have to go into the rainy day fund. Gee, I mean, soon we can actually start getting a reserve. I mean, my colleague from Los Angeles mentions a moral budget, a morally balanced budget. I'd like to start with a balanced budget to get real numbers so we know exactly what we're dealing with. And then we can start asking the question, what are the priorities of California taxpayers? I don't think covering $9.5 billion of illegal immigrant health care in the general fund would be at the top of their list. Thank you. That does it for today's show, Reform California with Carl DeMaio. Please, again, check out our website, reformcalifornia.org, and join the fight. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.